August 6th, 2026. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on 2002 chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. There's no economic data to really move the markets. Overall, the price action has been very choppy, and it's very slow. I was tempted to take a trade right here. I'll go ahead and mark it right now, but I didn't because it wasn't a good trade. It was more like I've been sitting around for too long, and I decided that it was going to be a good enough trade, but I thankfully did not take it. I mean, it would have worked out, but that's not a good reason to take a trade. It was more because this is the time of day. I could tell my brain is getting fatigued, so I'm just going to call it now. Um, there were maybe some almost trades, but most of the time their setups were showing up, and I didn't even mark them as almost trades because they felt like they were traps, but then they ended up working. So after seeing that a few times, I knew if I were to, take an iffy setup or something I felt a little bit apprehensive about, it'd probably go against me and that could trigger me. So ends up being a no trade day and I'm okay with that. I did take a few trades throughout the rest of this week and those ended up being profitable, so I'm okay for the week. The price action pushes down, pushes back up, and it's just this very, very choppy mess right here. Also, there was no economic data to move the markets. I don't know if I mentioned that. Okay, so it feels like it's in a trading range here, which is the high side. It's like a first entry long pullback. Technically, you have a second entry long, but this is just noise. I don't really like this. It pushes down, creates a new localized low, reverses up on this green up channel. By the technical count, you do have a first entry short, second entry short failure, but it all looks like just one big leg. And this failure doesn't look very attractive because there's a big tail here. So I've been looking for a higher low, which doesn't even show up. It's a localized high. It's like a first entry long pullback. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but it looks like it's just one big leg down. Then it pushes up and it gives you a higher low. Unfortunately, this isn't a clean and nice higher low because it's red. And it pushes up, pushes to the high side. At this point, when this is established, I was thinking this could be the top of a range because I'm thinking we're trading in a range that looks like this, especially when it starts looking like it's struggling to break through this resistance here, and it pushes back down. Technically, you have a high here, first entry long pullback. You technically got a second entry here, but it may be just one leg. Again, it's just very choppy. A lot of wicks on each side of the bodies of the candles, whether they're green or red. So it just makes it a little bit more harder for me to trust. Wishes breaks out. There's a fail breakout. First entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here. Again, this isn't very. It's not a very clean setup. Plus, I'd be potentially buying into the highs of this range that I think we're in. Pushes up and then it flushes back down. Almost makes it back to the bottom. When it kind of gets down to here, I thought maybe the bottom of the range could be valid, and this could just be a fail breakout. But then it could proceed to push up and push back down. So it made it a little confusing. Localized low, first entry short pullback, second entry short. Unfortunately, the signal bar doesn't set up nicely. EMA isn't helpful at all and doesn't really help throughout the pretty much the whole day. Well, up until now. And then I was looking for a lower high because I was thinking there's two legs up, maybe another leg like this is going to show up. Unfortunately, your lower high never shows up. Another failed breakout, pushes up, pushes back down, just a choppy mess. It pushes, let's go ahead and squeeze this. I'm thinking we're still in this range at this time of the trading. So I'm expecting a push back to the high side, pushes up. I'm not really sure why there's this big drop here, but it is a first entry short, second entry short. This is hard to trade because it looks like it just might be one leg up. And my expectation is it's still going to move up to the high side. So that's what I'm thinking right now. Maybe there's a small pullback and then it's going to hit the high of this range with maybe something. I mean, this isn't the cleanest, but none of the legs really today have been that clean. I'm thinking it's going to push back to the high side, but then it has this big drop and it pushes back up. So technically you have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. I thought there was a second entry long failure about to occur. It hasn't confirmed yet. And there's a first entry short, and I also thought there was a second entry short here. So it's an almost trade. The thing that's stopping me is this is just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's not really at the high of the range. It's not the low of the range. It's kind of toward the middle. There's no clear bias. It's making it very confusing, but it's something I saw in real time. I'm thinking there's two key entry points, two setups. Well, not two key entry points, but two setups confirming a potential trade, but I don't really trust it yet. In this case, it would have worked, but that's okay. Pushes down, breaks through the range that I thought we were playing in, pushes down, kind of chops sideways. You could find second entries in here, but they're so tight and small, like creating the second leg down is very questionable. So even though you can find two legs or two second entries, high or low, second entry long or second entry short, they're hard to trust, especially when they show up with very little candles in between to define clear legs. Like a first entry short, technically you have a second entry short here. It's a terrible signal bar. You're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You might have a range. I was thinking maybe there, I didn't draw it, but I saw maybe there's a range or congestion forming here. So this is just noise. I didn't really like that. Pushes up, pushes down. I drew this, but it never really confirmed. So I just left it as transparent, never went back to visit it because it doesn't really help. Pushes down, hits a localized low and low of day, pushes up, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short. Here, I'm looking for a lower high confirmation. Otherwise, I think prices might be moving back up. But overall, this price action's been kind of, I mean, they're creating legs, but they're hard to really capture as in fitting inside a nice channel. So it just was a, I don't know, kind of a choppy, confusing day. So it pushes up, first entry short, second entry short, potentially a lower high here, but it's not a really nice candle. As I said, the EMA isn't helpful at all, so I'm just pretty much at this point ignoring it. Pushes down. It's a localized low. I'm expecting a test of this orange down channel. There's a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short. This would be helpful if the EMA actually could be trusted. But then you have a tail here, which it makes it hard to trust now because it tells me at the end or toward the end of the life of this candle, there were some buyers that are able to push it back up. If it closes the low, then I'm thinking if it closed like this candle, then I think there's enough momentum to push down. Your first entry short, confirm second entry short. I don't really like that. I don't want to take a trade here because it's already near the low of day. Waiting for a lower high. Lower high shows up here, but the lower high, when you see this in real time, is like this is hard to trust because prices already pushed down so much to creating new lows of day. This one is creating a new low of day by its life. During the life of this candle, it created a new low. So to enter this, it just feels dicey because you'd be asking prices to push even further down in an ambiguous area. It's ambiguous because it was just pretty much a sideways chop, push down, break, another push down. So what's going to happen here? It's hard to really tell. So then proceeds to move sideways. I drew an arrow here because I thought there's a second entry short here. Maybe it looks like two legs up, but now I had to trust a key entry point being the EMA, which I didn't trust before. So suddenly when this setup occurs, the history of this EMA is telling me, at least for today, I can't really be trusted. It's bearish, looks like two legs, but I'd be selling into the potential lows. I'm going for 6 ticks, and it looks like there is enough room for 6 ticks, but it just felt dicey. I marked it with a black arrow though. And as you can see, the timestamp, I've been staring at this chart for a couple hours now, and I was just very likely just getting antsy or just starting to see things, and that's a result of my, I think, mental fatigue. Pushes down, pushes back out of this potential range. Fail breakout. Looks like it was two legs up, and I did do a measured check here. And actually, the fail breakout, the breakout section, is pretty measured. So it's like it broke out, created a corresponding symmetrical break here. I've since deleted it because it just muddles the picture. Looks like two legs up. No real way to take a trade here. And it got to get all the way to here where I was tempted to take a trade here. So it creates a localized high. It's pushing down. I'm expecting a test of the low. Creates a visual first entry, second entry, actually technical first entry, second entry, and then it gives you a higher low. Now I was tempted to take this because, as I said, I'm starting to make poor decisions when it's this late in the day and and the price action hasn't really been that favorable for me. So I see this and I'm thinking, there's a trade here. There's a trade and I can get 6 ticks. But if you look at it, if you look at the axis, it's like this is 1 point, this is 2 points. For me to take a trade, I probably enter at the highs of this guy, and I pretty much need him to be pressing pretty close to a potential resistance area. I mean, not to say that it couldn't push up higher, the resistance might be higher, but I was tempted by this, but I could tell I was kind of inventing a reason to justify taking a trade, but fortunately, I was smart enough not to. It would have worked out though, because I would have said this is the high, first entry long pullback, second entry long, higher low, failed breakout pullback. And I'm thinking prices are going to continue upwards. So this is me thinking after the fact. And if I had taken this trade, I think that's what I would have justified it as. It would have worked. And definitely after seeing this, I did feel a little bit of FOMO, thinking like I should have trusted my gut. But at this point in time, my gut is questionable because I'm clearly taking a not high probability trade, but a mediocre, medium probability trade, if not low probability trade. So kind of happy I didn't take a trade, didn't jump on this because this is a good indication or a good start of developing of a bad habit because then I would believe that my hunch that just happened to work out here was a good hunch, when in fact it was just kind of a coin flip that would have worked out. So in which case, no trade today. I'm just happy that I didn't give into this trade because I could see an alternate universe of me taking this trade working out. Then I have this in the back of my mind that I have to kind of unwind later when I do something similarly stupid in the future, and then wonder how come it didn't work out. So yeah, kind of a unfortunately slow, choppy day that looked like from afar there might be potential, but when I zoom in, there was no clean setups that I felt I could take. So hopefully that was helpful.